Right, let's just dive straight into this explainer. Today, we are going to completely flip how we think about human creative labor in the age of generative AI. I mean, we are living through a massive, totally unprecedented disruption in what it actually means to create. So we're going to strip away the magic trick of artificial intelligence to uncover the real underlying mechanics of authorship. So, is AI actually stealing our creativity? Or is it maybe just exposing a massive, centuries-old cultural myth? We constantly hear that AI systems are these autonomous creators, but we need to stop and ask ourselves a really vital question. What actually happens to the value of art or text or innovation when the machine is the thing handling all the heavy, mechanical lifting?
You know, to really get to the bottom of this, we've got to look at the philosopher Hannah Arendt. She argued that authentic creation absolutely requires biological friction. It requires praxis, an active, engaged doing that is completely, fundamentally inseparable from our lived human consciousness. Think about it for a second. A machine has zero lived experience. It doesn't feel joy or grief or that sheer physical panic of staring down a blank page because it entirely lacks the friction of mortality and consciousness. It lacks the inner drive you actually need to express a meaningful human thought. It's just simulating the output. All right, Section 1, the romantic author myth.
Look, the reason we're all panicking so much right now about AI replacing us is because we've bought into a historically recent idea. We're clinging to this 18th century illusion of the solitary romantic genius just pulling completely original ideas out of thin air. But historical reality, it paints a very different picture. Human creativity has almost always been a highly collaborative, deeply derivative process of pattern recognition. We remix, we borrow, we build on what came before. Honestly, generative AI systems are essentially just doing what we've always done, synthesizing vast archives of human expression. They're just doing it at a completely mechanized statistical scale.
Which brings us to Section 2, intent and the banana. So, if the machine is doing all the literal painting or coding, what exactly are we bringing to the table? Well, conceptual and minimal art actually nailed this a long time ago. Think of Maurizio Catalan's famous duct-taped banana, or Marcel Duchamp's ready-mades, or even that famous six-word story attributed to Hemingway, for sale baby shoes never worn. The art isn't the physical banana, or the porcelain urinal, or the few drops of ink. The art is the concept, it's the context. The human mind provides the vital intent and the emotional resonance. The physical object, or in our case today, the AI output, is merely the mechanical execution of that human intent. The machine provides the sweat, for sure, but the human provides the soul. And this perfectly sets up a brilliant concept called the semiotic bridge. How do we get our messy, associative, highly emotional human imagination into a rigid, emotionless silicon box? We use text. Text is no longer just for reading anymore. It has literally become the universal deterministic interface. Think of it as a bridge spanning two completely alien worlds. It translates the fluid nature of human intent into the strict, rigid math and executable commands that hardware can actually process. You are the source of the intent. Text is simply the steering wheel that forces the machine to act. Moving right along to Section 3, value in customer discovery. Now, this exact dynamic between human intent and machine execution isn't just some artsy philosophical debate. It is actively rewriting the business landscape. Our sources outline an early-stage software development model, and it highlights a massive validation dilemma for startups. They have to test ideas insanely fast before they just run out of cash. Enter generative AI. It's stepping in as an incredibly fast co-creator, helping founders synthesize massive amounts of data, formulate hypotheses, and generate wireframes at lightning speed. The machine is handling the heavy analytical lifting. But, and this is a massive but, there is a strict dividing line here. While the AI is an amazing co-creator for those data-heavy tasks, it entirely fails when it comes to the human element. It cannot replicate the emotional labor, the gut intuition, and the interpersonal trust required for genuine customer discovery. You can automate the data processing, sure, and you can automate the code, but you absolutely cannot automate the human empathy required to sit down, genuinely connect with a customer, understand their pain, and solve a real-world problem. That remains strictly, exclusively human territory. Okay, Section 4, copyright as a trademark. Now, if the machine is sweating it out and doing the computational heavy lifting, who actually gets to own the final product? Well, get a load of this number, $90,000. Seriously, let that sink in for a second. That is exactly how much contemporary artist Richard Prince made per canvas simply by slapping his authentic brand and comments onto other people's public Instagram posts. He magically generated real market value not through manual labor, but through curation, context, and human intent.
As her sources point out, the U.S. Copyright Office has drawn a line in the sand. Machines cannot legally hold copyrights. Only human-authored works qualify. Because of this, the very nature of authorship is fundamentally evolving. Traditional copyright used to strictly protect manual physical labor, the literal time spent moving a pen or a brush. But today, we are shifting toward a model where copyright functions a lot more like a trademark. Because the AI generates the raw pixels or the raw text, your ownership relies on your curatorial branding, your specific edits, and the unmistakable stamp of your human intent validating that output.
All right, Section 5, protortion versus distortion. To actually legally claim authorship over something an AI spits out, you have to engage in what our sources call protortion. And no, that's not passive consumption. Protortion is your proactive, sweating, agentic intent. Imagine a creator sitting at a keyboard just aggressively fighting with an AI prompt, adjusting whites, regenerating, and steering the output over and over again. It is you forcefully gripping the steering wheel and meticulously mapping your creative vision onto reality with high fidelity. You are outright refusing to let the machines simply guess for you.
See, there's a huge contrast at play here. Algorithmic distortion is inherently probabilistic. AI models guess, they mathematically degrade over time, and they hallucinate, creating what the sources describe as an automated miasma, basically a fog of average, predictable output. Human protortion is your direct active defense against that fog. You have to force continuous truth into the system through aggressive manual pruning and relentless human direction. In fact, to prove you're the true author today, courts and legal frameworks are basically resurrecting this old legal concept called the sweat of the brow doctrine. But actually, scratch that. It's no longer about the physical exertion of lifting heavy objects or manually mixing paint. Today, it requires thousands of prompt iterations. It requires meticulous parameter adjustments, manual overrides of the machine's noise, and continuous human steering. That intense, hyper-focused mental labor, that is the modern proof of the human spark. But grabbing that steering wheel comes with a massive catch, a concept called the agentic tort. If you use the semiotic bridge to command the machine and you take credit for the resulting prompt, you absorb total, absolute legal liability for whatever the AI spits out. You can't just blame the black box when something goes wrong. If you take the wheel and claim the output as your own, you must also take the blame. It's the ultimate trade-off for utilizing such incredible leverage. Finally, Section 6, Rise of the Orchestrator.
So you are no longer just a manual creator. To capture the true magic of authorship and achieve actual, real digital sovereignty, the sources lay out 3 non-negotiable steps. Number 1, secure the hardware substrate, so you aren't just indefinitely renting cloud space from some tech monarch. Number 2, publish your explicit, unalterable intent using exact text. And number 3, execute locally. You have to permanently bind your human record directly to the machine that executes it. It all boils down to this perfectly captured thought from our sources. The human pilot applies the intent, but the agentic cell executes the sweat. The machine is an unbelievably powerful vessel. It handles the raw computational rendering, but it is completely, entirely empty without you. It relies entirely on your lived experience, your messy emotions, and your fundamental drive to give it a soul and meaning. Which leaves us with one incredibly provocative question as we wrap up this explainer. As systems become more autonomous and this digital fog thickens, the choice is totally yours. Will you passively consume the machine's guesswork and act as a mere moral crumple zone? Or will you actively embrace your role, stand at the sovereign gate as the orchestrator of meaning, and architect the future yourself? Thank you so much for joining me. Keep orchestrating, and I'll catch you on the next one.